5 steps to start a successful, financially thriving photography business. What's up guys, Jordan Correces here, co-owner of the WLMA, the most result-based business mastermind for wedding photographers and filmmakers worldwide. And not only do we help photographers and filmmakers make a lot of money, but we help them get more time, freedom, and build the lifestyles that they want. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 5 steps to start a successful photography business. Literally, if you're just getting started, you're starting from scratch, or even if you kind of have a little bit of a portfolio and you're working way up from there. And I'm going to be covering everything from gear, shadowing, content immersion, marketing, website and portfolios, and even pricing. And through this is how we got, for example, our students, Ashley and Peter in Canada, to $25,000 a month, literally just within few months of starting their business full-time. And in their first 7 months full-time in the wedding photography and filmmaking industry, we got them to 6 figures. So if you're trying to start a photography business, you want to eventually get results like this, we're going to dive into all the good stuff right now. But before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on more of our content. Anyways, let's get started to the good stuff right now. So number 1 of the 5 steps is gear. For those who are watching this that are literally starting from ground zero, let's dive into the different types of gear. And I'll talk mainly from a wedding standpoint to a portrait standpoint. I won't really dive too deep into stuff like commercial work, but even so, a lot of this will overlap to commercial work, all that type of stuff as well. Now, when it comes to camera gear, specifically for weddings first, you typically want 2 cameras eventually. You can work with just 1 camera, but especially if you're a photojournalist, you want to eventually have 2 cameras. I shoot and I'm recording this video with a Sony a7 IV. Absolutely amazing camera. Love the eye tracking that it's doing even right now. If you're more on a budget, you can maybe find these used or maybe drop down to the a7 III or a7 II. But the Sony a7 IV is definitely a camera I absolutely love. I used to be a Canon person before I switched to Sony. In this photo of me at a wedding, I'm actually shooting with the Canon 5D Mark III. Not a mirrorless camera, but if you're more on a budget, that is still a great workhorse to work with. When shooting with 2 cameras, you do want to get these hold fast camera straps that I'm wearing so you can dual wield and jump between lenses and cameras very, very quickly, especially when it comes to photojournalism and when you're working with primes. You want to eventually be shooting with mainly primes, and if you're not zooming in and out, means you need those 2 cameras and you need to be switching quickly when you're capturing those candid moments. Now, as far as lenses, and when I'm talking about gear, I am going to be talking mainly from the perspective of the bare minimum that you need to get started, because you can get all the gear that you want, you know what I mean? But most people starting out just are trying to figure out the bare minimum they need. The bread and butter when it comes to weddings, especially if you're dual wielding 2 cameras, is a 35mm 1.4 or an 85mm 1.4. If you want to upgrade that even to a 1.2 f-stop, even better. And dual wielding between the 35mm and 85mm is absolutely great for photojournalism. You have the wide, and then you have the 85 you can jump in when it comes to portraits and close-ups. The extras that you would need was eventually getting a macro lens and a 70 to 200. But being totally honest, you can do a whole wedding just with a 35 and an 85. You will literally only use the macro when it comes to details, and I only use my 70-200 during the ceremony. But for the most part, 35 to 85, I use 99% of the time. Honestly, the 35 I use the most. Just because of my style, you'll see some of my work in this video, and you'll kind of see that I like to work close up with my couples. And then a dedicated flash when it comes to the reception. Whatever camera you choose to use, look up what dedicated flash works well for that. Now, what if you're more on a budget and you can only have 1 camera and 1 lens? Let's say you have a Sony a7 IV and you need to get 1 lens for that. I recommend maybe a 50mm 1.4 or 1.2. The 50mm is not a great photojournalism lens though. I prefer a 35 or wider when it comes to capturing candid moments, but it is a great portrait lens. So if you're more of a photojournalist though, and you're just looking for 1 lens, I'd recommend maybe the 24 to 70. That's a great all-around lens. Not the best portrait lens because the f-stop usually only goes up to 2.8. You can't get any wider than that. So you're gonna have some sacrifice of give and take if you only want one lens. If you only can have one camera, but you can have two lenses, I'd recommend one camera with a 35 and 85 millimeter. If you're a photojournalist, you're gonna have some of that. It's gonna be difficult to change lenses in time when it comes to capturing candid moments and everything. But best case scenario, two cameras, 35 millimeter, 85 millimeter. Get those hold fast gear straps that I'm wearing right over here so you can dual wield two, and you need to have a dedicated camera flash. Now, when it comes to you portrait photographers, this actually gets a lot easier because you don't need as much gear, even though you can have more gear. So I'm going to be talking about bare minimum. One camera, if you like mirrorless, I would really consider the Sony a7 IV. And as far as a lens, you can do great work with a 50mm 1.4 or an 85mm 1.4. Those are both great lenses for portraits. If I were to pick two lenses, I would still choose the 35mm 1.4 and an 85mm 1.4. 85mm is absolutely amazing for portraits, for couple portraits and engagement sessions, etc. I do still love shooting with the 35mm. So for two lenses, when it comes to portraits, do the 35mm and 85mm. If you're going to just choose one, I would say maybe the 50mm is a great all-around lens, or maybe the 85mm. And if you love studio style lighting, I would look into Amazon and find a beginner off-camera flash kit that you can work with and eventually upgrade to something better. Now, what if you don't have cash? As you can see, if you're researching a lot of this gear, you're going to see it's very, very expensive. If you don't have the cash to get this gear and you know you are very serious into starting a photography business and making sure that you build a successful, thriving business, I recommend finding financing options. And I know B&H Photo has some financing options when it comes to gear, or you can do what I did when I got started and I applied for Best Buy credit. They often can be very lenient with the credit that they give you, and you can use Best Buy credit to finance the gear that you want to get. So let's say you spend $6,000 on all of this gear, and maybe you're planning to dive into the wedding industry, and you're charging $2,500 per wedding. You only need 2 weddings to be able to finance most of the gear that you got. So I personally highly recommend Best Buy Credit, maybe B&H Photo financing that they have as well. And this is just the bare minimum of what you may need for these 2 niches when it comes to starting a photography business. If you are an established photographer, watching this video as well, and you have some advice when it comes to gear that I'm not mentioning, feel free to add them in the comments right now. I know a lot of the viewers can get a lot of value from that as well. But let's move on. Number 2 of 5 steps is shadowing. You must find photography mentors in the niche that you want to pursue with at least, I'd say, 3+ years experience to teach you the ins and outs of the art, the customer experience, workflows, and do's and don'ts. Hopefully you can find someone who can teach you great strategies when it comes to business and marketing and sales as well. Being honest with you, I'd say about 95% of photographers don't do well in this area, which is where we come in the WLMA. But even if you can't learn those from the mentors that you find, it's going to be absolutely gold to learn the workflows, how to build the right customer experience, the ins and outs of that niche that you just don't learn except through mainly trial and error. And if you can learn those from someone else so you don't make those same mistakes, that's going to be huge. And not only is that going to help you fast track your experience and the ins and outs of the industry, shadowing and finding people who can mentor you is going to give you more great opportunities to shoot and build that portfolio much, much faster. So for example, this photo is a photo of some of our students. We have almost 1,000 students in the WLMA. Yearly, we'll meet for these mastermind events. And in the back here is one of our students, Molly. And she joined our program wanting to learn the business of wedding photography and filmmaking, but she had no wedding portfolio when she joined. So here, she met up with Aiden Meadows. He was one of our students in our program and ended up becoming one of our team members as well. And Aiden, since they lived close to each other, took Molly under her wing, helped her build her portfolio, helped her teach her the ins and outs of the wedding industry. And that has been absolutely gold for her to build her business from scratch. And that's just one amazing example and why it's so important to find people that you can shadow in the particular niche that you want to pursue, because there's so much you can learn from them. So that is step number 2 of 5 is shadowing. Absolutely key if you want to fast track your results. Now, step number 3 of 5, portfolio and website. I'm going to talk a little bit about weddings and portraits, some of the best practices, show you some examples, etc. And I'm going to be talking from the bare minimum sense as well for those who are really just starting out. Now, when it comes to weddings, I recommend at least building a minimum portfolio of maybe 2 to 3 weddings, maybe one styled shoot that you pay to do or you put together yourself, and 5 engagement sessions. If you have at least that, you can make a decent looking portfolio and a decent sized portfolio. For portraits, it's actually a lot easier. I would say at least 10 to 20 portrait sessions. No fancy way to get this together. You are going to likely have to shoot for free. Reach out to couples that you know are getting married. Reach out to photographers that you can shadow and second shoot. Find styled shoots that you can pay to be a part of or if you're creative, put it together yourself. Reach out to people looking for senior photos. Charge a cheaper price in the beginning just so you can get these portfolios set. You're going to have to get out there. You're going to have to shoot for free or cheaper than what you would like to at first. Once you have that portfolio, now we got to start building that website. And this is what I recommend. Now, when it comes to websites, if you are not good at design, if you're not very techie, I recommend using Squarespace. Now, Squarespace, out of all the different companies that are out there that do these drag and drop websites, I believe Squarespace has the best looking templates. If you stick to one of their templates, they're super minimalistic. You can't go wrong. If you are very techie, you're a great graphic designer, or maybe you can afford to pay someone to do an amazing job with your website, I recommend WordPress. And WordPress is better when it comes to SEO, but it is a lot more difficult to use than Squarespace. So decide where you're at in that and decide between Squarespace or WordPress. Now, when it comes to the best way to set up your portfolio, especially if you don't have a whole lot of work, I recommend doing a carousel style portfolio. And I'll show you my website and I'll show you why in a bit. Once you've built more work up on your website, I usually recommend doing a carousel style portfolio showing the highlights, and you can use a grid style portfolio usually on different parts of your website after that. But I'm going to show you my website right now, and I'll show you why a carousel style portfolio works out great, especially to showcase your work if you don't have a huge portfolio. I do have a very big portfolio. I decided to stick to a carousel style portfolio just because I really like it. But let me show you this real quick. So here is my website. And even though I've been shooting for like 10 years and I built up a really huge portfolio, I decided to stick to the carousel style portfolio. And this is what I used in the beginning too, back like 10 years ago when I only had like one wedding and a few engagement sessions. And if you have a small portfolio, what I recommend is mixing up your work between like your top 50 photos. And if you mix it up, you can really showcase the ability of what you're truly able to do without it being so focused on how small your portfolio is. So mix it up. Share your top 50 photos or so. Here's one shot I got awarded at with Fearless Photographers. I like to mix it up with portraits, candids, close-ups, wide, all different kinds. And if you make a carousel style portfolio, especially if you have a small portfolio, make sure the photos next to each other are totally different couples. It excites the senses more when they go through it. So I mix it up with all kinds of different photos with candids, exciting things, portraits, wide, close-up, candid emotions, things that we posed. And that way there's a mix of emotions as you go through the portfolio. This is one of my favorites to capture right over there. So it can work out great if you have a large portfolio, but it can also showcase your work in a more powerful way if you have a small portfolio and you don't want the portfolio to be focused on how small it is. If you only have like 2 weddings and a few engagement sessions and you do a grid style portfolol, it's not going to look the best. One thing that I didn't do on my website, but what we have a lot of our students do who have absolutely amazing portfolios and a lot of work to showcase, is to start off the website with a small carousel style portfolio of maybe 10 to 20 of your best shots, and maybe under it you can scroll down to see more grid portfolios, etc. So here is some of my work that you can take a look at, and you can kind of see the power of a carousel style portfolio if you do it right, when you really mix up the emotions, really add variety as well. And as you can see, all the photos look the same also. A lot of people starting out, they decide to do the editing themselves. I did that when I was starting out as well. All the photos end up looking different and it's not brand. With these photos that you're seeing, I chose a preset that I absolutely loved. You don't need to be a good editor to be a great photographer. So all of these are masked in labs because it's the brand and the look that I feel. So if you're starting out, find a preset, 1 or 2 presets with the same theme and look that you absolutely love. I recommend going for something more timeless, not so trendy, and slap it on literally all your photos. You want to make sure that everything is branded. When people jump on your website, they know exactly what they're going to get. So if you're looking at your portfolio right now and you're seeing that all your work looks different, make sure to find a preset so everything is uniform and branded. And one last thing I wanted to add in there, especially starting off your website, really the only things you need is a home. I recommend the home being a place where they can see the majority of your work. Maybe a gallery where they can see more of your work if you have more to showcase, a blog, a contact or a write me, and a place for reviews. Also, an about me, where you can share more about you and your business. Those are the main things that you need. It's better to keep things simple and minimalistic versus having your website too busy and confusing. If you're not a great designer, I'm not a great designer, just keep your website minimalistic so you don't screw things up, make it too busy and chaotic. So if you're an established photographer, you're watching this video, and you have something to share that I did not share, add it in the comments. I want there to be as much value offered as possible. And one thing I just want to emphasize real quick, usually for a carousel style portfolio, you only need maybe your top 50 photos. Oftentimes when it comes to a portfolio, less is more. Show your best work. Start off with your best work in the beginning and your best work in the end, and the stuff where you kind of feel like it's in between, you can kind of add that in the middle. Now, step number 4 of 5 to starting a successful photography business: content immersion. To be a deep part of the industry, you must immerse yourself in the industry so people see you as a clear part of it. So especially if you're just starting out, immerse yourself into blogs and books from some of your favorite photographers that you've been following in the niche that you want to pursue. Find influencers that you absolutely love and pay attention to the types of stuff that they are posting that people are engaging with. And through doing this, you'll find trends, you'll find things that are timeless, and you'll be able to learn how these trends work, so sometimes you can get ahead of the trends. And as you begin studying these blogs, these books, these influencers, these trends, and you're getting a feel of the things that are timeless, then it is your turn, as you are building up that portfolio, getting more work, to post on these platforms consistently, these same platforms, so you can let the world know who you are organically. And though we want our marketing to be better than this, just through these organic posts, through showing the world that you are a photographer in this niche, is probably where you're going to get your first clients, your first inquiries, etc. Now, once you've done this immersion and now you're getting inspiration from all of these posts that you're seeing as well, you also want to immerse yourself in the content that your prospects like. Because the things that other photographers like and that they're looking at is totally different than what your prospects are liking and doing and paying attention to. The blogs, the books, the posts that they are looking and they're searching is totally different. So you want to immerse yourself and study what those things are. What are newly engaged couples looking up on Google? What are they looking up on YouTube? What are they liking on Instagram that is different than what the photographers are liking on Instagram? And so as you immerse yourself in what your prospects are actually liking, you can figure that out and you can start posting that content on YouTube, on social media, on your blogs. So you become the source of inspiration for your prospects. So they start to see you as the go-to authority in the market. And that is so important. So immerse yourself in the world from photographer's perspective and from a prospect's perspective. Find that inspiration, then start posting on those platforms and be that source of inspiration for your prospects. And step 5 of 5 to starting a successful and financially thriving photography business: do not neglect learning marketing and sales. Now pay attention to this. This is so important. Now we've helped people, photographers, scale to 6 figures in as fast as 6 months before. And we've been teaching this for 5 years, me and a team. And this is the formula right here. If you want to build a successful 6-figure business, it's this formula here. You need a complete, solid portfolio. You need a quality website, and you need marketing and sales skills. If you have those, that equals building a 6-figure to multiple 6-figure business in possibly 6 to 12 months, which we have proven over and over and over again. You can have a complete solid portfolio. You can have a quality website even, but you can still struggle in your business. And we've seen this so many times. People who are veterans in the industry, they are so good, but for 5-10 years, they have been struggling in their business. And it's because they neglected learning marketing and sales. Or maybe they knew how it worked back then and back in their day. Times have changed and they weren't able to keep up. Or what we often see is through 5+ years of being a photographer, they are able to build up enough word of mouth. Suddenly something happens in their business. They don't have that word of mouth anymore. They don't actually know real marketing and sales skills, and they're stuck. They don't know what to do, and you don't want this to happen to you. So even if you're just starting out, you want to make sure that you master marketing and sales in the beginning. And what this means is knowing how to generate leads on demand, knowing how to build a quality brand, knowing how to nurture strangers, leads into raving fans of your brand so they see you as the go-to authority, and learning in-person sales, whether if that is, wedding consultations on Zoom, or whether if that is, actual in-person wedding consultations. You have to know how to do this. It's the only way to build a successful business. And I want to show you something here when it comes to pricing, very specifically for the wedding industry, because this is particularly our expertise in the WLMA, but these principles will go into even portrait and commercial businesses as well. So in the wedding industry, there are, we'd say, 3 different pricing tiers. There's the lower end where, the lower tier where maybe you're charging $1,000 or less to $2,500. These are usually photographers just starting out. They're solidifying their brand, their portfolio, their website. They're still getting these things together. Or maybe they have great work, but they just never made that jump to that mid tier. Then there's the mid and high tier. This is when you actually have a great portfolio, you have a great website as well, because that is your storefront. But what is the difference between these really great photographers that are charging, this mid tier to the high tier? And I'll tell you this, and I've seen this happen so many times in the industry. You can have 2 photographers that are just as good as photographers. Let's say they have a similar brand, similar clientele, their work is just as good. You have one photographer here charging in the mid tier. Maybe they're charging $3,500. But then you have another photographer who is just as good, but they're able to get those $5,000 wedding collections booked, those $7,000 wedding collections booked, and even those $10,000 to $15,000 wedding collections booked. What is the difference between that photographer who's just as good, only charging in the mid tier, compared to the one charging into this high tier clientele? And I promise you this, the only difference is the one in that high tier understands marketing, sales, and branding at a very high level. So if you're serious in starting a successful, financially thriving photography business where you're working less, you're making more, you're getting your time and freedom back, you're able to build the lifestyle that you've always dreamed of, you must master marketing, sales, and branding. And I'm not just going to leave it at that. I'm going to share with you the actual strategy that we do. So check out this little diagram right over here. This is how we actually get leads, how we build our brand, and how we book those $5,000 to $7,000 to $10,000 weddings consistently, month after month after month. How we actually generate leads. We call it the lead generation trio. There are 3 ways that we get leads in our photography and filmmaking businesses. The first is through search engine optimization, our rankings on Google and YouTube particularly. This is more of a long-term strategy. When you know what you're doing, we can build that in 4 to 6 weeks, but it's something you do not want to neglect. The second is vendor networking. Finding the right vendor or network of vendors that refer you, building really amazing relationships with them can be an absolute gold mine in your business. This is kind of a long-term strategy as well, but it's something we don't want to neglect, and we're building that as we go. The third, and the bread and butter, and this is absolutely amazing for photographers just starting out as well, and veterans who've been in the game for a long time, is through paid advertising, very specifically Facebook and Instagram ads. Now, particularly in the wedding industry, Facebook and Instagram ads work out really, really well, because we can literally get our ads in front of newly engaged couples directly, which we can't do in other platforms as well and as accurately. So this is how we can generate leads. 2 long-term strategies. one short-term and long-term strategies with paid advertising, we can literally get leads into our business within 24 hours if you know what you're doing. Now, once we get these leads, the thing is all these leads are still very cold. We need to turn them into raving fans. So here's where we build what's called our nurturing funnel. So we build this nurturing funnel, this ecosystem where, let's say they opt in on our ad, we're able to get them into our email marketing series. From that email marketing series, we can get them to our website. We can get them to blogs. Let's say you want to cross-pollinate these couples or these prospects to your social media, to a Facebook group, to your YouTube. You can do that. And eventually that can turn into an engagement session. And now through this ecosystem, we're able to build impressions and build trust. We can turn these strangers into raving fans of our brand here. So we start to become the go-to authority in the market. And if we do this correctly, instead of it taking years and years and years like it does with most photographers, we can do this within months. So finally, because of this ecosystem, we get our inquiries for sessions or weddings, whatever niche you decide to pursue. We have a special way we do our consultations where we can book very high ticket prices. So maybe that's for a session, that's maybe for a wedding. So every single month, literally every single month, we're able to get leads on a daily basis. We're able to turn these leads into raving fans, get inquiries that do less price shopping, that do less ghosting, and book more sessions, book more weddings. And this is the exact strategy that we do. So as a photographer starting out, this is what you want to be thinking of. Now, if you know you want to commit to the wedding photography or the filmmaking industry, very particularly for weddings, and you at least have a small portfolio and you don't want to procrastinate on mastering marketing, branding, and sales so you can build a thriving business, even hit the six figures or multiple six figures like our students that you may have seen in our other videos, I'd like to invite you to our WLMA program. And remember, this is very particularly if you want to pursue the wedding photography or filmmaking industry. So in the WLMA program, it's for wedding photographers and filmmakers. We're going to teach you how to do these sponsored ads. We're going to teach you how to build up SEO, how to build up those vendor networks, how to actually build a really powerful marketing funnel. We'll teach you how to build an extremely high-level brand so you can attract your dream clients, how to do high-ticket sales so you know how to get those $5,000, $10,000 weddings, and actually even how to upsell albums, make an extra $1,000 to $2,500. We just had a student book a $4,500 album, so you can just make a lot more profit. So if this is you at least have a small portfolio, you want to pursue weddings for photography or filmmaking, in the description of this YouTube video, you can schedule a complimentary business audit. And so in this business audit, you'll meet with me or someone from our team. We're going to diagnose your business. We're going to audit your website and portfolio, see how much you can potentially charge now and in the future. We're going to help you build the fastest roadmap to your goals and see if we're a good fit to help you scale in the WLMA. And if the WLMA is not a good fit, that's totally cool. We'll recommend you to someone else. This business audit is still going to be extremely valuable for you. So you can find the link to schedule a complimentary business audit, very limited spots, in the description of this YouTube video. If you happen to be watching this video on Facebook, the link might be in the comments. So go ahead and schedule one of those right now. We only have a limited spots. Along with that, in the description of this video, you can find a link for a free training we made. It's only 15 minutes long and it's teaching exactly how we've scaled people to six figures in as fast as 180 days. We've helped wedding photographers and filmmakers get to that 100K to even close to $500,000 level. And we'll teach you the exact strategies that we're doing. You'll actually get to meet some of our students as well. And so along with the business audit, you can find this free training. You can sign up for it. It'll take you to this page where you can watch that free 15-minute training, and you'll find a link to those business audits under that training as well. So make sure to check that out. A lot of students have said it's extremely valuable. We'll show you how to get to that six-figure level without things like the knot, without word of mouth or wedding fairs. We'll teach you the fastest strategies to help you scale. So anyways, guys, I hope you found this video incredibly helpful of the 5 steps to start a successful, financially thriving photography business. If you have any questions, make sure to add them in the comments. Let me know if there's anything I missed and you have questions of, we will reply. If you're an established photographer as well and you see that there's anything that I missed, add them in the comments as well. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on more of our videos. And if you are a wedding photographer and filmmaker who wants to hit those six-figure to multiple six-figure results, like you've seen of our students in our other videos as well, be sure to hit up the description of this video, find the link to schedule a complimentary business audit. We can't wait to see you there and help you scale and possibly even work with you in the WLMA. Anyways, guys, I'll see you on the next one.